Welcome to Hotel California.
So
You
Lisa,
c-
so can I see if this is gonna come up there?
Yep, come on just a second, I'm just testing the screen here real quick.
Okay.
I got paper plates. Oh, you did? Good for you.
I had Jolene order them last week
Oh, nice.
when her party was over.
Okay.
We would have them and we're getting silverware and all that. And it was just nice because, you know,
You're ready to start?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the Todd County Board of Commissioners acting as drainage authority for Todd County Ditch 41. It's an informational meeting, and it's 6 o'clock, and so we will start the public hearing. We'll start with a pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for the record, all commissioners are here except for Commissioner Denny. And at that, I'll turn it over to Nancy.
You want it to go to you?
All right, so first I want to mention the assessment roll. I only made available so you'd have an example of what a $10,000 assessment would look like. There is no assessments right now on this ditch other than beaver activity. So I just want to, people always get excited about assessment rolls thinking that there's a bill coming, but there's not. I just figured I would provide it to you guys. So. Yeah.
So thank you, Chairwoman and Commissioners. My name is Kale Van Bruggen. I'm an attorney with Rinke Noonan Law Firm, and Rinke Noonan Law Firm represents Todd County in its capacity as the drainage authority for County Ditch 41 and of course other drainage systems in the county. I just want to briefly mention the purpose of the informational meeting is to provide the board and the landowners who have come to the informational meeting today with just some background information about County Ditch 41. Including some history that Nancy's going to detail about some contributions from a lake improvement district that have been approved and have been into the repair account. Nancy's going to also go over some of the repair needs on County Ditch 41. And then I'll provide the board and the landowners that are here just some basics of Minnesota statute, chapter 103E, what's expected and required of the drainage authority and how repairs, if the board were to approve them and move forward, are accomplished. You'll see at number 6 on the agenda, there's going to be time for public comments and questions so that if any landowners or any board members have questions about the ditch system or about chapter 103E, the law on repairs, we're certainly happy to cover that. And then following the public comments and questions, we'll just have an opportunity for some board discussion about what's next and what the board would like to see from staff as next steps.
Okay, so the notice requirements, there was a public notice run in the newspapers for 1 week, the week of January 21st. The notice was put on the county website. The notice was put on the boardroom bulletin, and 90 landowner letters were mailed out on January 23rd.
So one thing that Todd County does that I think is nice is we just start these informational meetings with hitting some high points about the basics of ditch law. And because we're here to talk about repair needs for County Ditch 41, we're going to keep that limited to what drainage law says and requires for repairs. So after a drainage system like County Ditch 41 is constructed, the drainage authority has an obligation under statute to both inspect and keep the drainage system maintained that's located within its jurisdiction. The reason it does this is to keep the drainage system in repair, to prevent damage to landowners who've been assessed to pay for the original construction and ongoing maintenance of the drainage system. It's good to keep a system in repair to check for how a system is being used and prevent the unauthorized use of a drainage system for any lands or landowners who aren't paying benefits or aren't on the assessment roll. And also when the drainage authority does repairs, it's balancing both the economic costs and some of the environmental interests and considerations of potential impacts we look at when we do repairs. The repair statute, and by definition in 103E.701, says a repair includes restoring all or part of a drainage system as nearly as practicable to the same hydraulic capacity as originally constructed and subsequently improved. So the drainage authority will consider the repair needs of the whole system, but based on that weighing of economic interests, costs, but also environmental considerations, might not necessarily move forward with a repair of the whole system. That decision is going to be informed on cost estimates that your staff bring to you, environmental permitting requirements, and also importantly, the comments and information from landowners who've been invited to share with you what some of the impacts are from parts of the ditch that are working and are not working. That repair can include resloping ditches where necessary, leveling the waste banks in order to stabilize the ditch, realignment to the original construction if that's necessary, and sometimes just routine operational maintenance, removing beaver dams, snagging and clearing trees, things that don't always result in an informational meeting or a public hearing. Repairs can be accomplished without a petition of the landowners on the ditch system, and they can also be accomplished without appointing an engineer and noticing and conducting a formal hearing if one of three things exists. That is that the cost is less than one of the greater of the following three thresholds to conduct repairs for the cost levied in any one calendar year. Those three thresholds are the greater of 20% of the benefits on the ditch system. This ditch system has not been redetermined in a long time. The total benefits, Nancy will go over, but they're around 30,000, so that threshold is low. 1,000 miles per mile of open ditch. If the cost is less than that, there's no need to appoint an engineer and hold a formal hearing. Or whatever the current threshold is for publicly bidding government contracts, which currently is set at 175,000. So as long as the annual levy stays below 175,000, it's not required to formally appoint an engineer and hold a public hearing, but you always can do that if it's beneficial for accomplishing the repair. When the drainage system was established, damages were paid for both the top of bank to top of bank on the open channel of the ditch, but also to the land area adjacent to the ditch that's necessary for doing two things: staging equipment for constructing the ditch, but then also spreading and leveling those spoil banks. And so the drainage system has already acquired and paid for that right-of-way. Typically in a repair, where there would be no damages paid for new right-of-way acquisition, because the repair can typically be accomplished within the right-of-way that was already paid for and acquired. If we are doing some modifications to the ditch system for repair and we need to acquire additional right-of-way, there's a process to do that. But for the most part, most of our repairs proceed within that original right-of-way that was acquired. Of course, if there's growing crops that need to be damaged, we typically try to avoid doing work while crops are growing, but if we can't, then damages are paid for that temporary use of that cropland in order to conduct the repair. The repairs are funded first through whatever funds are available in the operation and maintenance account, and Nancy's going to talk a little bit about the history of this ditch system and some of the contributions into that account from that recent Lake Improvement District project. Whatever is not covered by the existing funds in the account, the repairs are paid for through an assessment that's levied based on the benefits of record for the ditch system. And so once those costs are known, then assessment will be brought forward to the board that is levied and then collected with other property taxes in order to pay the costs of that repair. So with that, Madam Chairwoman, are there any questions from you or the board for me about the basics of ditch law or repairs?
Any questions? No?
Okay,
You ready?
ready.
Okay, so the history of ditch 41. Built in 1917, the petition was submitted in 1916, and it was assessed to the landowners in January of 1918. And it is located in 16 sections in Fond Lake Township. The design was to be 23.74 miles long, but the approved ditch is 19.18 miles long. There's 6.3 miles for the main ditch and 12.88 miles for the laterals and branches. And the original ditch cost was $26,892.96, and the original benefits were $30,015.50. Okay, so there's some really odd things about this ditch system. Laterals 5, 6, and 7 terminate in the old Fish Trap Creek. So if you look at this map that's up here, the waterway that goes east and west, on both sides there, was actually the Fish Trap Creek. And at the time the ditch system was built, they decided to run a ditch line north and south, and they actually did not include those sections of Fish Trap Creek in the actual official ditch system, but yet they have laterals lateral 7 and lateral 5 and 6 that they have hanging out there that outlet into that Fish Trap Creek, but yet Fish Trap Creek is not part of the official ditch system. They made the ditch line that goes north and south, that crosses Quicken Road to connect the two sections of the original creek, and now that has become basically Fish Trap Creek. So the laterals are kind of hanging out there on what is not county ditch. So here's the general reference map of the ditch system. All the landowners got this in the mail, they could look that over. The section of ditch that was south of County Road 7 was a section of it that was not approved. That's in that light pink color. It's a very large ditch system. And the whole main ditch is considered public waters because it's Fish Trap Creek. And lateral 3 that goes to County Road 7 is also considered public waters. So on the ditch design, the main ditch, starting from the Pulaski Road area and ending at County Road 28, the ditch bottom width varied from 10 feet to 18 feet, 10 on the bottom end by Pulaski, and 18 feet by the time you get up to County Road 28. Top width also varied 13 feet to 25 feet, and the ditch depth varied from 4 feet to 7 feet. There were some sections of the ditch that I have documentation here that varied a little bit from that, but for the most part, the majority of it are those depths and widths and cut. Laterals and branches, the bottoms vary from 3 feet to 4 feet, and the top widths varied from 5.5 feet to 10 feet, and the ditch depth varied from 2 to 5 feet. So there's, and lateral 3 is an open channel. The rest of the laterals are not really all that open. They're pretty sedimented and vegetated in, so. Just to do an overview of the Lake Chaminade Lid Outlet petition, March 2021, the Lid submitted the outlet petition to use Ditch 41 as its outlet. There were 3 hearings held. October 2021, the outlet was approved. The Lake Chaminade Lid, the agreement was they would pay $30,000 a year for the first 3 years that the pumps were operational to lower the water. And then May 2021, the Morrison County Board passed a resolution that they would contribute $200,000 to the maintenance fund of CD41 upon award of the contract. And that money has been sent over to the CD41 maintenance fund. That was done on October 5th. And they are in the process of building this project. And I believe the last I'd heard that they're actually south of Pulaski Road, working in that area there. July 2024 was the approximate completion date according to the LID's website, webpage. That's what they're saying is the approximate completion date. So, and I've been hearing things that Lake Chaminade is like almost to the level now of what ordinary high is. So I am not really sure what will happen if they never actually use the pumps, if we stay in a dry period. So I don't know that we can calculate in $90,000 right now as outlet fees, because I am not sure if they'll actually turn the pumps on or when that will happen. But we do have that $200,000 from the Morrison County. Just an overview of where that outlet route was. It started at Lake Chaminade. They trenched, went along Highway 10, went under Highway 10. They did clean a waterway on the Morrison Line Road. And the original plan was to go through more of the wetland area, and that was not approved. So they actually are gonna go south along, I believe it's Atlantic Road. Do you remember, Lou? That was Atlantic, I think it was Atlantic.
Morrison Line Road.
Yeah, but I think, yeah, it's Morrison Line Road, whatever. And then they were gonna come south, come west then south of Pulaski Road, and then enter into the creek that comes across Pulaski Road and then goes across and connects up with Ditch 41 by the railroad tracks. So that was the plan that was approved by the LID. Oops, dang it, now I just screwed up. Hold on a second. I hate when this happens. How do I get back? Arrow? Ah, thank you. Okay. So the conditions of the ditch. Everybody that lives out there knows these conditions. Soil types out there, the majority of them are 541 rifle muck. There's approximately 1 mile of ditch that's east of County Road 28, that's actually the 543. They call them marking muck, but a lot of that soil along there is erodible, more of a gravelly sand-like, but only for about that mile, and then it goes back into peat bog area, and more of this muck area. Most of the ditch system you can't really walk on. It's very remote areas, and the road access is limited. If you look at that map, when you get out there in the middle where the kind of the horseshoe area goes up, you're a long ways away from any roads out there. The main ditch is Fish Trap Creek, like I said, it's public waters. Much of the ditch line for the main ditch is open, but there's old dam debris, there's beaver houses, there's vegetation that's growing on old dams. There's a lot of oxbows out there from places that there were dams that water went around, and then there's just some general, I think they call them backwaters more than oxbows, but backwaters where there's water areas that for overflow that go into on wet years and then comes back into the ditch line on dry years. There's chronic beaver issues on pretty much the whole ditch. I've got 3 people pretty much trapping year round, and we still are catching them. They're just unlimited out there. So lateral 3 is also public waters. Of all the laterals, that one is public waters also. For the most part, the laterals are very overgrown with vegetation. Lateral 7, which is up on the edge of Fish Trap Creek, the most northwest corner of the ditch, you can't even see an open channel on aerial photos. It's that vegetated in. And most of the laterals aren't much better. Over on the east side of Red Rock Road, those ditch systems over there, they are channelized. You can see them, but for the most part, the rest of the laterals are pretty bad off. So beaver trapping, dam removal, drone flights, and county ditch inspector fees have been the only expenses on this ditch. There's been no projects done on this ditch system. So for types of maintenance projects, so if we wanted to do a full clean out of the ditch system, since it's DNR waters on the main ditch and on lateral 3, I've already talked with Mark Anderson from the DNR. They would likely require us to do a survey. So we would spend most of our money doing a survey because it's not inexpensive doing survey work. And with the area as remote as it is, I'm sure they would charge extra for the inconvenience of going out there. And the laterals are mostly silted in, but the laterals are not DNR waters except for that lateral 3. If we did spot cleaning, I've already kind of talked to Mark about this. I said if we did a drone footage showing where sandbars are, where beaver huts are, where old dam debris are, and some of those vegetation that's kind of in the middle of the ditch, if we would be able to do a spot cleaning without having to do a survey. And he kind of said that they would allow that as long as we weren't dredging, cleaning ditch bottom more than those things. I've canoed this whole ditch. It's been several years, but Phil Miller and I canoed this whole ditch, and there is like a sandy, gravelly bottom on most of it. Most of it's not the bottomless peat bog kind of land. You can see the sand bars and stuff in it, so it's mostly this gravel sand stuff. For spot cleaning for the main ditch, that would be the old dam debris and the vegetation. The lateral spot cleaning would not be practical because most of them don't actually have a channel. They're all pretty much vegetated in. Most of the main ditch and laterals will likely have to have the spoils leveled with the excavator because there's no way we're gonna get a dozer out there. The excavator's gonna have to, if we use a regular excavator, they're gonna have to mat out there because it's not great soils. So for estimates, so there is a company called Midwest Amphibious Equipment, and they're from Grand Rapids. They have amphibious excavators, and I talked with him. He didn't really want to give me an estimate because he said that he would like to actually see it before he would give an estimate on it. They do have GPS equipment on their machines, so he said they can do an accurate as-built as they go along if we needed it. I'm sure that would be extra. If we don't really need it, I don't know that we would actually have to do that. He was talking more for if the DNR was gonna require some type of survey, that they have the survey equipment on their machines. He said they can do the work, they can bid it by the work or by the day or by the job. I contacted them probably 5 years ago, and at that time, he told me 12,000 a day. And I don't know how much they would get done in a day, but that's what his estimate was at that time. So this time, he's not gonna give me an estimate until he would actually come down here and look at it. So it could possibly be that 12,000 a day area. I'm not sure how much ground they would cover in a day. They might actually be able to cover quite a bit if they're not excavating the entire ditch and they're just doing mostly spot cleaning. Other contractors. So it was kind of tough to ask for an estimate since I don't know if we're gonna do a spot cleaning. If the request would be for a spot cleaning or for a full maintenance. So I didn't actually get estimates yet. For the main ditch, I did talk to a contractor and we had a discussion about the soil types, how far they are from main roads to get in there. And I'm not sure how fun it would be for a contractor to get out 2 miles into the middle of nowhere and then have to get out of there at night and leave their equipment. So if we could afford to use the amphibian machine, that would probably be the best for the main ditch. The laterals are real mucky, wet soils too, and a lot of them are out where there's no roads. Some of them there are road access, so that might be ones we could do with a regular contractor rather than the amphibian contractor. But because of the soil types and the remote locations, I'm not seeing an estimate coming in at what we're used to getting, that $3 to $3.50 a foot, just because of I don't think we're gonna see this because of the typical prices we normally get. Like I said, we could use more than one contractor. We could have the amphibian person do the main ditch where they basically need to float out there, and then have other contractors do laterals that don't need that kind of a machine. The cost to clean the full ditch would exceed the amount that's in the maintenance fund with that $200,000. Even if we were able to get a bid at $3 a foot. So for the 6.3 miles of main ditch, that's 33,031 feet. At $3 a foot would be $99,093. And then the laterals and the branches, that's 12.88 miles, so 67,972 feet. So if we got that at $3 a foot, which these are not realistic dollars, but even if we did, that would be $203,916. So it's going to, if we did the entire ditch, I'm estimating it's going to exceed the $200,000 maintenance or money that was put in by Morrison County, and the $90,000 if we get that from the Lake Chaminade lid. It would exceed that amount. I'll have to see if we do contact the guy with the amphibian machines, hoping that if they only have to do spot cleaning and can move fast, they get a lot done in a day, then it might be less. So before I do this, I actually went out there today and took some pictures. I'll just show you the pictures that I took. Lisa, I need a bigger computer. All right. Okay, so this is on Red Rock Road. This is looking, there's lateral 9 that goes off across Red Rock Road out into the one field, so that's that. This is looking, that's the railroad that goes through there, and these are the railroad culverts. The other side of this is all of the other laterals of the ditch, and I didn't want to walk up on the railroad track, so I only took this picture. So the main ditch from County Road 28, this is actually looking toward the Long Prairie River. So this outlet, the whole ditch system outlets to the Long Prairie River. So that's looking in toward that would be, get my bearings. Is that west of 28? And then this is looking, who lives out there? Is that north? That's south? Okay, this is looking south off of 28. And then the main ditch, this is Quicken Road. This is going north off of Quicken Road. This is the section that was built, that wasn't actually waterway back when the ditch system was built. This is what they created. And then this is looking south off of Quicken Road. And then County Road 7, this is lateral 6, and it's pretty much completely silted in. Lateral 7 is the one that goes off to that other little lake. I think, is it another? Rat Lake. Lateral 7 is the one that goes off to that. So that's going west off of the road, and then this is looking east off the road. And then County Road 7, this is lateral 3. Lateral 3 is the only lateral that's really wide open. And this is really muck soils out here. This is really crappy stuff to try and work on. And then this is branch 5 of lateral 3, and that's pretty much what the other laterals look like. There's no ditch there. It's pretty much all silted in. And this one's actually good compared to the other ones. I couldn't even find them. I was trying to figure out where the heck they were by the GPS and unit, and I couldn't figure out where they came out. This is Pulaski Road, so this is back to the main ditch again. This is north off of Pulaski Road, or northwest off Pulaski Road where the main ditch crosses. And this is going southeast off of Pulaski Road. It's the main ditch. So. Okay. So we can go to the, do you guys have any questions about any?
Yeah, a little bit. I guess it kind of sounds like from the numbers you've given us that, you know, it's not feasible to do the whole main lateral just because of the engineering fees and things like that. So, I mean,
Or
the main ditch.
If we didn't do a full clean out, right? If we didn't do a full clean out, if we did a full clean out, they would require a survey.
Right. So it sounds like the best option for the money is to do spot cleanings on the main one and then they'll clean the laterals as we can with ease.
And I don't know, anybody here on the main ditch? No?
Fish trap free.
I canoed the whole thing,
Yeah.
and it's pretty open.
Yeah.
And luckily there aren't trees. Luckily that's the only good thing about muck soils, you don't have trees.
Right.
So there wouldn't be a big expense for trees. There's like one section that's pretty treed south of Quicken Road. North of Quicken Road, the soil types are better. There was a storm that went through 3 years ago, and there's a lot of trees that have fallen down that section, but at least that's not muck soils. So but other than that, yeah, if we wanted to do the whole main ditch, we'd probably use up the whole budget on engineering.
Right.
Well, like surveying.
That seems like not a lot of bang for the buck then, does it?
No, and especially since the main ditch, like I said, it's pretty open. It's just those beaver dam debris and huts and stuff like that
Right.
that are obstructing it. So,
question on lateral 3, anything south of County 7?
no, that's the section that was abandoned, or not abandoned. It was never approved with the whole main,
So it was eliminated?
Yep,
So we
it was
wouldn't have to
eliminated.
worry about that at all?
not south, no.
Okay.
No. And then there's some of the laterals, so if you're looking at your map. Okay, so that section of Fish Trap Creek that is not included in the ditch system, those people are all still on the assessment roll, that whole area, there's benefits there. Lateral 7, you can't even see the ditch. So if those landowners on lateral 7 were willing to abandon that section, I'm almost thinking that it's not worth digging it, because the soil types, we're gonna dig it, and it's gonna probably be pretty much like ditch 25, you're gonna dig it and it's gonna heal itself right back up again, because it's just those bad soil types. So I don't know how much those landowners right in that area would actually want that cleaned. And I don't know how much benefit they would actually get if we cleaned it, because we can't clean the Fish Trap Creek
Right.
section.
Well, question about that then. Now, if they were to just abandon it, do they remove themselves from the roll then?
They could also do that, but we'd have to find out.
Okay.
So, because this whole area's got people that are on the assessment roll.
Right.
It's two separate petitions that could be done concurrently. Abandoning the right-of-way itself does not automatically make any change to the benefits roll.
Okay.
But if it would be determined that because there's no right-of-way there anymore, their land cannot regularly or significantly use the remainder of the ditch downstream, then they could concurrent with that petition for a removal of their property from the benefits roll, Or you have to unfortunately look at a redetermination if instead the goal is to, lower their benefits. So if there's still benefits some, but they shouldn't be benefited as much because of the distance, then the bad news is that requires a redetermination. But if it's, well, yeah, they don't have any access or significant ability to access or benefit from the ditch now because of the inability to clean out, they could petition for removal.
Okay.
So, and then that section of Fish Trap Creek, we have done beaver trapping on there and dam removal on there just to keep branch 7 because they pay, for the benefits.
Yep.
But that whole, there are landowners all along there that are on the assessment roll, all along those sections of Fish Trap Creek. Lateral 6 is not real apparent either, but I know that that landowner, I was already contacted by one of those landowners, they would like that one cleaned if we can get it cleaned. Lateral 5, not real apparent either on aerial photos, and it attaches to Fish Trap Creek, it doesn't attach to the main ditch. You would have to, and that's like a meadow in that area, so I don't even know if they're haying right over the ditch or if the ditch still is even there yet. Doesn't look real apparent on aerial photos. And then lateral 8 up there, kind of up by that Red Rock Road, that one also is not real apparent that it's there, but they do haying around there, so they very well might want that one cleaned if we clean that one. Lateral 4, I know I've already been talked to about Zetas, that they would like to have that cleaned, but that one's another one that you can't even see the ditch line. Lateral 2 is pretty much the same, you can't see the ditch line. Lateral 1, I did not go down to County Road 7 and look at that and see, I don't know what that lateral 1 looks like. The branch of lateral 3 and spur of lateral 3, those I can't even find them. They're non-existent. The branch 5 of lateral 3, that was the one that I showed the picture. So it would just be if landowners want to decide they don't want it cleaned, that would save on how much we would have to spend. But that would be something I'd have to talk to those landowners about, what they would want to do. Any other?
No, I don't have any more, thank you.
Okay.
Just open up for public comment then?
Yep.
If you want, just come up and just state your name, so we have it for the record.
Leroy Smith, I own the property right where it goes into the Long Prairie River.
Yep.
And I was wondering if there's any plan for any type of realignment to that ditch. If you move up on my property a little bit, you'll find that there's a severe dog leg in there, and it's been damaging my property many years.
So
This particular ditch crosses my property. It does my property no good at all. Yet I'm on the assessment rolls paying for maintenance on it, but yet it's taken away from my property on a yearly basis with the high water. And especially if they start running more water through there, I can only foresee more damage to occur to my property.
let me bring up my mapping system and we can look at. And yours is that section that is that erodible soil?
Yes, yes, it's just a sandy soil. This ditch, I think at the original meeting, where that goes into Long Prairie, it's much deeper than it was originally designed to be. So when you're talking your 17-foot widths and stuff like that, it's much wider on my property, quite simply because it's just over the last 100 years has washed a lot of dirt away, and with that, and you got sandy soil, you get erosion. It's just that simple. And what I'm kind of worried about is, you're not going to be able to put all that property back, but could we do something to at least straighten the current out through that area so it's not eroding more of my property?
So the way, because I've talked to Soil and Water about if there were any funds available for erosion
I think right
control.
where the purple spot is
Yep.
where it's,
Yep. So the red line on here is what it was designed to be, and the green line is what it is. And yeah, I went through and looked at everything on aerial photos. Go away.
I don't know
And-
how much property was leased originally, but I know it's extreme.
Yeah, so these are some of the areas, I went through and marked everything that looked like it was an issue.
But
But-
with more water going through it, it's just gonna steadily get worse.
So, Lou, I will
Yeah.
use you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Water follows the path of least resistance.
Usually,
So if we realign it back to where that red line is, what's the chance?
well, you know, in this situation, it kind of looks like if you turned on your aerial, though, it looks like it maybe it was created at one time to go through straight through. When
It was,
built.
yeah.
When
Yeah,
it was
that
built.
red line is the,
As built.
yes.
Okay.
No, the red line is the design.
When it was designed, it was meant to go that way, but I'm guessing there was a blockage there at one time and decided
Probably
to
a
take the
rock
way
that
around.
got hit and got started, or.
Yeah,
but-
and then it started around, and then it kept that path because it was easier after it had washed out.
Well, the ditch is 100 and some years old, so
Right.
it just happens.
But I mean, I don't know if you can turn your elevation layer on, like
Oh,
the
yes.
elevation contours.
Yep, hold on a
But when
second.
you look at the amount of soil that has been removed out of there,
Right. I know. I know exactly what it looks like up the road there. It's
you've been in there
Yeah.
fishing too, huh?
yeah, and there's a couple spots there that it looks the same. Like
Yeah.
it might have right there in front of us that it did the same thing.
Hold on. I'll find them eventually. You want the hillshade?
You can do the hillshade. I was looking more for like just the elevation contours.
Well, you look at that for now and I will go back and find my,
But you can kind of see where the straight channel should have been and was.
Well, and it probably never was there back. It
Well,
was
I'm
done,
guessing it was when it was dug initially in
I-
1917. It probably was straight. And then all of a sudden it got blocked somewhere by beavers or something, and then it took a
but why
different
would
turn
it move
around.
over that far consistently? I believe that they missed their mark to start with,
Okay, could
all
have.
along there, which is no big deal. It is where it is. I just would like to get it to stop stealing my property.
Nancy, can it be maintained to design? Or Kale?
Yeah, the part of that repair definition that I read is realignment to the original as constructed.
Yeah.
So what, the location of the construction is more important than the location of the original design. But, you know, if you realign it to the original construction, whether that Mother Nature's gonna put it back into the sinuous mark again, and how quickly that happens,
Right.
it's really more of an engineering question than
Right.
what.
And in this case too, that's all in upland too, so you're not dealing with any of the wetland
Right.
regulation. So, I mean, realigning that wouldn't have any drainage impacts.
no.
Oh.
My concern is the same, it's very erodible,
Yeah, and
sandy soils, and what's it,
And with more water, a straight shot probably
Right,
is
that's why I
better.
say the ditch does me no good.
Yep.
Yeah, but yet I'm on your assessment roll.
right.
It does my property no good at all. It's just, but I just hate to see the property keep leaving.
Yeah. And I did talk to Kale about funding for like doing bank stabilization and stuff along there, and he said that that's not a high priority area, so there's no funding.
Oh, you talked to who?
Sorry. Yeah, Kaysen. not
Kaysen,
Kale.
there.
Kaysen, there's too many
Yeah,
Ks.
so-
I do not make decisions on priority of funding,
No,
so that we're all clear.
Kaysen is the soil and water
Perfect.
WACA person.
There you go.
Yeah, it's too many Ks. And he just said that there's not a high priority area,
Right.
so there wouldn't
But
be
this
funding.
could be a realignment thing that could fit into where these funds could probably be used. Realignments, cleanouts, removal of beaver
Yep.
dams, things like that.
Well, is it right that it's just allowed to keep happening?
Well, right.
You must only have so much property leased through there. Is my whole 40 going through there up to grabs? You know, at this time it is.
No, so generally in a repair, they would realign it to the original construction. Whether more needs to be done to protect it going forward is, you know, part of what we're here to take comments on and get direction from the board. But, you know, of course, that involves looking for funding, hiring an engineer. You have the legal authority to expend that funds, but, you know, whether the board wants to direct us to get more information on that is up to the board.
But, you know, you could start creating that with 1 or 2 rocks in there over 100 years. It's just went around the rock and kept eroding around the curve, and it just continues on.
Right.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I can go back to 1933 on photos, but I can't go back to I'll look at it on 1933 photos and see what it looked like
I
then.
can remember some 50 photos in my head, but I can't go back further than that.
Yep.
Wasn't that ditch dug in there with a steam shovel?
Yes, it was.
I don't know.
According to our father, they had that ditch used to go back on Jan Bardo's now, and used to go that way.
Well, that's where the Fish Track Creek goes.
Creek used to go.
And that's how it was projected to go
Right,
originally.
but it didn't get
when
approved
at
that
the
way.
Railroad tracks, rather than dismantling the steam shovel to move across the railroad tracks because it's high berm there, they just continued on and went right straight to the.
So you're
river.
talking about up by Red Rock Road?
No, right by 28,
Where it enters the Long
just-
Prairie River.
just
Okay,
back.
yep,
From 28, it's ours, and then it's Jan Bardo's.
okay,
That was supposed to turn and go across under the railroad tracks and
Down Fish Trap Creek.
creek there. But that's when they didn't want to tear their steam shovel apart.
so that red line is what it was designed to be?
Yeah, they floated that down there and dug that ditch,
Okay.
according to our dad.
Okay, so I do have, there was documentation in the old records about the laterals being too small to use the equipment they use for the main ditch, so they use different drag lines and stuff for the laterals, but I don't have anything as far as a steam shovel or,
According to dad, they didn't want to tear it apart and get it over the railroad.
okay.
It was just,
So
if we're
that's,
going to the railroad.
they just
Took the
went
path of least
straight to
resistance.
the railroad.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay, yep. So,
Any other public comment?
I'm Gerald Braver. I have two parcels. One I have sole interest in, the other one I have joint interest. Property that I have sole interest in is not adjacent to the county ditch per se. It's adjacent to Fish Trap Creek. It's in section 8, I believe. No, it might be right below 8. It's north of Quicken Road.
17, section 17.
I can't see the section.
You-
Yeah, it might be 17.
you have the
right.
parcel number off of the assessment roll?
Let's see here. Parcel number 080016500.
You still want the elevations on there, Lou?
0016500, parcel number.
Okay, that's it right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
Fish Trap Creek is fully overgrown with cattails or whatever. You can't even get a canoe down there. There's no drainage whatsoever. I'd be in charge of an assessment where I absolutely don't receive any benefit whatsoever. And I heard the discussion tonight that clean out of Fish Trap Creek is not even being considered. It's just the main ditch, which I understand why you would be focusing on the main ditch. I see why. That's where the benefit would be the most. But on that particular parcel, I heard that you were discussing, for example, if lateral 7, if those property owners would decide not to be part of the judicial system, they could be removed. Well, if that's the case, I would like my parcel removed likewise, because I absolutely do not receive any benefit whatsoever. On the other hand, if we are looking at a long-term approach to this here problem, there hasn't been much discussion as to looking at redetermination of benefits. And what I'm saying is I really feel that the benefited area is more than these 90 property owners that was established back in 1916, 1917. I do think that the drainage area per se is more than the drainage ditch area. But that would be a long-term approach. You would get several more property owners involved in the process. And I don't know if that's would be the approach to use necessarily. But in a long-term approach, a redetermination of benefits, I think, is really would be the way to go. I understand there's limited resources, financial resources here. And that's probably why we are looking at working on the main ditch to get the most immediate benefit. But on my particular parcel I have on 0016500, and I can't get a canoe down it.
Yeah, I know, but it's,
And I was wondering, does the DNR have any, it's a public waterway per se,
yeah,
but it's not open water. It's fully overgrown. I mean, it's, you can't get a canoe through there.
So just to clarify a couple of things, for your public water question, that was inventoried in the 80s. And so there is a process by which if you can show that the land doesn't meet the public water statute, you can petition the DNR and ask them to review that. But it's totally discretionary to the DNR. And it's not something that this body can decide what's on the public water inventory and what's not on the public water inventory. And I just want to make sure we're clear, when there was discussion about lateral 7, there wasn't a proposal on the table for the board to just go abandon lateral 7. The comment was made that if the landowners would want to have their benefits removed from the roll, a precursor to that would have to be petitioning to abandon the right-of-way, because it would be hard to justify changing the benefits as long as the legal right-of-way, which creates the possibility of a future repair, is still there. So it'd be important for the landowners affected by lateral 7, including yourself, to get together amongst yourselves and discuss what do we want to see happen long-term with this area. Do we
But
want,
I'm not part of lateral 7.
okay. Your property is
right here.
right on the creek.
Yep.
I see.
Yes, which
So-
is,
Problem is that in order
The
to.
work downstream of the creek.
No,
Yep.
but in order to say he's,
Right, there's a natural water course that's not part of the
Right
ditch
through the
system
property.
between your land and then the main ditch, which is an altered natural water course, which is the outlet for the water course that goes on your land,
yes,
right? Because the flow is
let's say,
this way.
say that once again.
The characterization of the Fish Trap Creek on your property,
Yes,
the DNR would call that a natural water course. They would say it's part of the public waters inventory, it's a natural water course, it is not part of the drainage system, so the drainage authority doesn't have any ability to go into that water course and do work. And the outlet of Fish Trap Creek, when the ditch system was built in 1917, that became an altered natural water course that is part of the drainage system.
I understand.
Okay.
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Yep.
so. We wouldn't be able to block a natural waterway if he's trying to.
To block the main ditch? No, correct. The Drainage Authority has to keep the main ditch.
No, but,
Repaired.
so if he wanted to be removed from benefit, from the assessment roll, he has to show that he's not getting any benefit.
Right, so the removal statute to say I want to take my property out and not be assessed any benefit at all is statutes 103E.805. And it says that the landowner asking for that has to prove to the board three things. They have to prove that the waters have been diverted away from the ditch system so that the waters coming from your land no longer reach this county ditch downstream. That's what's gonna be a challenge, right?
That's gonna be a
That's
challenge.
what you're smiling about, yeah.
I would say also for any property owner in the drainage area, not only in the ditch.
Right.
Drainage area, but in the, no matter where you look, it's gonna be a tough bar to reach.
To show,
Yes.
right, exactly,
Yes.
yep.
Okay, so then what I put up there, and I know that's, it's a busy map, the blue outline around the county ditch, that is the catchment. So on your question about the redetermination of benefits, that would be the water, the area that would be looked at. The benefited, so that's what's in the benefited area right now is what's in the purple. I should turn off my aerial photo. So you can kind of see how much of it's already in the assessment roll and then what's outside of the area.
It's about, what would you say, half
Be right on the edge.
or more?
Yeah, and that bottom section that's in the dark colors, that was not approved to be part of the ditch, which is why they're not on the assessment.
But like anything else, it's in the drainage area, and ultimately, it does reach the main ditch
Yep.
at some point. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, and I would say you're right that in most redeterminations, especially on systems that haven't been redetermined in 100 years, based on the current statute and case law and the current methodologies that the viewers use when they do a redetermination, it's most typical that the benefited area grows. The acres might grow, but the viewers are gonna look at things like proximity to the ditch, the elevations of the land, what the highest and best land use is. They're gonna look at a bunch of different data, so it's not take every acre in the watershed and divide it evenly. But yeah, it is true that most of the time the benefited acres grow.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So then it would just be if you want to spend the money that's in the
Nancy,
Maintenance
what does
fund.
it cost?
for a redetermination,
Yeah,
it would be, the last estimate that I got was $4 a catchment acre. I would have to figure out how many acres are in this catchment. The only good thing would be that most of this ditch system's already got a natural buffer, so we wouldn't have to plant a buffer, but we would still have to purchase the buffer. But you wouldn't have to plant it. Do you? We don't do
Yeah.
redetermination, so I can't even do
The
that.
last estimate I've heard from a viewing team is $4 an acre, and when Nancy says in the catchment area, it's because the viewers have to look at all the land in the watershed. So it's not $4 per the existing benefits acres, but $4 an acre for however many acres are in that total watershed. And when Nancy said the buffers, current drainage law says that anytime viewers are appointed, which is what you have to do a redetermination, the drainage system has to acquire a 1 rod or a 16.5-foot buffer on both sides of the open ditch. And so then the landowners from the new benefits roll pay for that acquisition of the permanent buffer on both sides of the ditch. If it's cropland, that has to be retired to grassland, your damages are more. If it's, not able to be cropped now, then the damages would likely be less. But there has to be some kind of payment, and that comes from the system.
So there are 12,538 acres in that catchment.
Figure 10.
And that $4 an acre is just the cost of the viewing team. Notices have to go out for the property owner's report to show everybody the proposed assessment, the landowner informational meeting, notice the final hearing. You have staff time, legal time to conduct the final hearing, and then a big expense potentially the acquisition of the land buffer.
So viewers' fees roughly would be $50,152. And then they pay, the acquisition of the buffer, they pay according to the land use. So if the buffer strip that they're buying is cropland, they pay a cropland price. And if it's wetland, they pay the wetland. But I think it's a minimum of probably $1,000 an acre.
Yeah, different viewing teams have different recommendations for the board, obviously on that, but the wetland acres and non-productive acres, 1,000 might be high.
Yeah. So basically, it would take most of the money that we're looking at to do a
Certainly.
reevaluation.
It resets the tax base, but it
Yeah.
does not result in any immediate change in the hydraulic benefit on people's land.
And then the other thing that happens with redeterminations, and you can verify this, DNR lands usually get a zero benefit.
Yeah, typically. So if the DNR is using some kind of water control structure in order to outlet into the ditch system, so they're using the ditch system as an outlet for messing with what Mother Nature would otherwise do, then the DNR would be assessed benefits. But if it's just DNR land that's in a pre-settlement state, meaning it's not being managed for a food lot or it's prairie, it's woods, it's just wildlife land, without some kind of water management structure on it, it's typically assessed zero.
And right now, they've got 5 properties on the assessment roll.
Any other public comment at this point?
Just one more thing, Barb. So if people wanted a redetermination of benefits, we would need a petition asking for it.
So there's two ways it can be initiated. One is if there was enough groundswell or landowner support saying, yeah, well, we want to see this money spent on a redetermination, the board can initiate that on its own. But because of the expense and because of it eating up the fund, I would, not to speak for the board, but imagine the board would want to know from landowners that, yeah, that's how we want that money spent in order to do that. The other way it can be initiated is by petition, and that petition has to be signed by either 26% of the benefited landowners on the system or owners representing 26% of the benefited property. So just need to coordinate with Nancy on that benefits roll to figure out how many signatures would landowners need to start that process.
Okay. Then you want to go, if no one else has a public comment, we'll go, what next, I guess?
Yep. So
Hear me.
you go ahead.
Okay, so
Yes, there
this
is
would
that.
be a good time, for the board to, based on the presentation you heard from Nancy and the comments from the two landowners that showed up today, thank you for being here and for sharing that, to discuss, what direction you'd like to see your staff to go with preparing for a decision if the board is to do anything, moving forward on either redetermination or repair. But generally what happens is, based on the information you received today, giving Nancy some guidance to help define that scope of what we should look at in terms of repair. Not meaning you're making a decision to go forward with it today, but she could use that guidance from you to then go get an actual quote, so you could see, what are the actual contractor numbers to move forward with repair? What parts of the system do you want to see her focus on for going to bring back actual numbers at a later date?
And the other thing was, since the dollar amount would exceed the benefited acres, we can't exceed the 175,000 a year?
Correct. So for whatever the scope of the repair is, if what you want to repair and pay for in 1 year exceeds 175,000, that can only be done through the petition procedure. It doesn't require an actual landowner petition, but the petition procedure means before you can authorize that repair of that scale to go forward, an engineer has to be appointed to formally prepare an engineer's report along with the plans and specifications. Once that report is filed, we have to notice everybody on the system that it's been filed, have a hearing on the report, and then you can authorize the repair. Otherwise, you need to scope the repairs below that threshold in a year in order to not expend the funds on having an engineer design the repair.
So
We wanna
stay
keep the
under,
engineer out, yeah.
yeah.
at this
So we would
point.
just have to keep it under $175,000 per year.
Correct.
So we wouldn't be able to do the whole project in 1 year
Exactly right.
if it exceeded that dollar amount.
Randy? Mr. Newman, what's your thoughts?
I would like to see the DNR checked out area of Fish Trap Creek out and let us know if that's a functioning creek right now, like the gentleman said, is it?
The section on Jerry's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, it still doesn't change the fact that it's still considered public waters.
Right.
But yeah, it's very overgrown.
Most of the time it doesn't flow, right? Is it stagnant water usually, Jerry?
Well,
it? Yeah,
beaver back it up a lot, so it must flow somewhat if the beaver are taking their time to build dams on it.
Okay.
It saturates in the soil
Yeah, it's a very wet area. It's really difficult to get on there at all. I mean, it's a mucky mess. I could show you a better aerial photo if you want. I just wanted to show you the catchment area.
Yeah, I think it's pretty sloppy there.
I'll show you the 2020 just because that's a better. So there, this is lateral 7.
Okay.
So this is what it's, yeah,
There's nothing there, is there? Yeah.
that's what that looks like.
No, I see, no, there's no
Well, it's gonna
chance.
be a creek if it doesn't flow.
Well, it's closed up because they bypassed it with the ditch.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough.
And then it connects to the main ditch. So that's supposed to be the waterway.
Yeah.
Is it just muck out there?
It's bad.
Okay.
I'm assuming you guys can't hunt back there unless it's frozen. So that's where it connects to the main ditch.
Oh.
So it's,
Some areas it's open.
yeah, some areas it's open, in other areas it's completely closed.
It doesn't even flow.
And we have done beaver trapping and dam removal over the years, just because this is on the assessment roll, and then you've got the lateral 7 hanging out there. So we've used that to justify spending ditch money on something that's not considered part of the ditch. And then it also goes down here, this is a little more open.
That's quite good, okay.
And then this is where lateral, I think this one's 5. Or is that, nope, this one's 6.
6.
This is lateral 6, and then lateral 5 is right here. And it just connected there. And this used to be a lake, actually, back in the day. They built this lateral to drain this lake. But, I don't know, in their infinite wisdom, why they didn't just leave that part of the ditch system. I mean, they could have still made that, and it just doesn't make sense. They didn't realize 100 years from now what we'd have to deal with on this, so.
I think it's pretty difficult to get the DNR to delist something. And that's where we stand as a problem. The DNR, they take care of their own stuff and we just have to watch it happen. And not just in this case, but a lot of other cases. But yeah, I mean, I guess my comment would be to move forward. It'd be nice to see landowners such as you guys that need fixes, have them come forward with them. Where are their issues? Let us know and we can take care of those spot fixes with the money that's there.
Yeah.
So shall I go ahead and talk to the amphibian excavator and see what they would actually charge to do the full main? They did not do full excavation, but to drive the whole main ditch and remove all of the oxbows and, not oxbows, but the vegetation that's in the middle, the old dam debris, the beaver huts.
We would like
Yeah.
to know
Yeah,
Right.
what the cost would be for them to do spot fixes.
yeah.
I mean, they're gonna run into things that they don't foresee and I don't know.
I know, I think they're gonna be expensive, but I can't imagine they'd be more expensive than having to mat that whole entire thing. For the backhoe to have to drag the mats along for the whole
Right,
thing,
right.
so.
So Nancy, time-wise, are you looking at this for next winter then? You do this in the fall and winter?
If we had the amphibian, we could do it,
You could do it
whenever-
anytime?
Yeah.
Okay.
so.
And would it be worth sending another letter out to all the landowners and ask them where do we need to do these spot fixes?
Yep,
You
I could
know,
do that.
And I know we can do flyovers, we can do all kinds of things to look at it, but you've got areas like Mr. Bravers that nobody's gonna go walk over there with a
No.
canoe
No.
to see what, or canoe over there, or walk out there to see what's exactly there. You know, have the landowners bring their concerns forward, and if they don't say anything, well, I guess you don't get anything done.
Yeah.
I know Nancy had some drone pictures that
Yeah,
I viewed
so
with you.
when Lake Chaminade did their project, you know, these are 3-4-year-old, well, almost going on 4-year-old pictures already. They did have their engineer fly from the railroad tracks to Quicken Road, and then we had the sheriff's department fly the section on Jerry's property, that whole section. So I do have those. I wanted to get a current flyover just because we've done dam removal in some places. Things changed so much just in a couple of years. But the sheriff's department, we didn't get to it until there was already ice on, and then you can see where the big dams are, but you can't see sandbars and you can't see other stuff we would have seen if the water was thawed. So. But yeah, I could do another letter. People were able to watch us online too, so I don't know how many people didn't come tonight because they could watch it online. But I'll send out another letter seeing, I know for sure the one, I've already been contacted about lateral 6, wanting that done, so.
Yeah, they could bring forward their concerns or the issues they have, and we can take care of them until the money runs out.
So actually then I would just have to send it to just the people that the ditch system runs through. So it wouldn't be all of them. You know what I mean? I would only have to send it to landowners the ditch system runs through.
Because you're not gonna do work on any of the other landowners' properties.
Yeah, if the ditch isn't on them, no. Because I already sent out one letter a while ago telling them we were gonna be trapping.
Right.
So I do have a list of just the people that the ditch system is actually
Then
on their
people
property.
like Mr. Braver wouldn't get a letter.
No.
He's on, well, no, but he's on this, yeah. I could make sure he gets one too.
You just send it to, I mean, how many people are on the assessment roll? Was it all of this?
Yeah, I sent
same people?
90, it'll be 90,
Send it to
90 letters.
all of them.
Okay.
Martha?
Yeah, in the back corner.
I sit back here and I watch this meeting and, you know, all this ditch system and all there's costs acquired and stuff with digging it and this and that. Well, I thought that lid went through there and they determined it was all good the way it was.
They determined it had the capacity to handle the water that they were gonna be.
Sitting here wondering if we're gonna have money to do everything, the repairs that should have been, have to be done, should have been accounted for before this ditch got approved, am I wrong?
As far as,
Digging it out and the cost and not being able to afford to do it all in a year or 2 years, I mean, it should have, oh, you're shaking your head, yes, do you agree with me?
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, but that wasn't,
I use this term lightly, but I think that Morrison County sugared Todd County with this. Because they should have, Todd County should have had a lawyer, they should have discussed the whole ditch, they should have looked at the whole ditch themselves. They should have went and had estimates, like you don't even know how much it's gonna cost. How can you say that Todd or Morrison County give you $200,000 or whatever, when you have no idea what it's gonna cost, and now you're talking about estimates? When you don't even know, now you have to try and use the money that was supplied to you, where it should be all just, when are we gonna start, when are we gonna use the money? We should know what needs to be done right now. Instead of wondering what needs to be done and what landowner is affected and this and that. You know, this should all been, as I know a lot of people recognize me and I was adamantly against doing this. And because I know that this was gonna happen, and what's gonna happen years to come now. Nobody really figured for the future. You know, I'm sitting here kinda in awe, I'm just wondering what's really gonna happen here. You don't know how much it's gonna cost. You're gonna try and take the cheapest way to clean out the various little you can. You're gonna let guys like this guy sit with his land getting eroded with don't even know what it's gonna cost to fix that. I mean, am I wrong? I mean, before you buy a car, you wanna know how much it costs, don't you?
I think Nancy,
I mean, come on.
I think a lot of us weren't very happy with what was going on, but I think through the ditch authority and so forth, our hands were kind of tied.
Tied by who? Yourselves?
No, by the state with ditch law.
I mean, if they could prove that the ditch system could handle the water, you know.
So why are we doing anything then?
Madam Chair? if I may.
Yes.
I'm gonna, one thing I've got, Morrison County didn't have to give us anything.
Yeah.
That was, they pledged that to us as more of a gift than anything. I don't believe they had to give us anything at all. So because Houston Engineering could prove that it could handle the water, we had to say yes as a county board. I wasn't even sitting on this board at the time, and I know the situation they were in. It was terrible, because you're basically sitting there, just take it, because you have to, because,
You know, I don't believe that for one.
all right, that's fine.
That's what happened, though.
I know that's what happened. It's,
Exactly what happened.
You guys could have voted it down by looking at different ideas and doing research at different ideas. I mean, I'm okay with what happened. I realized what happened, and then I sat there. You know, that high-priced lawyer looked me right in the eye and said, "Sir, it's not about other proposals or other things that happen. It's about voting on this idea." And I agree that, and I feel you kind of had your hands tied. But on the other hand, there should have been a lot of research and stuff done to see what this is actually gonna cost. Because Nancy, do you know how much it's gonna cost?
This is a very unusual ditch system, because usually we don't have,
Do you know how much it's gonna cost?
if it was a ditch system, we could drive out there with mats, $3.50 a foot.
You know, now they're saying they're gonna go with drones and stuff. Why weren't the drones flown back when this was gonna be looked at and done? I mean, you couldn't.
They were.
Todd County approved to them with they were saying that it could handle. Couldn't Todd County have hired a lawyer and said, no, our lawyer says it can handle it?
Well, it was the engineers that said that it could handle it.
The Todd County lawyer did?
No, it was engineers.
Okay, so they should have went further with it then, because obviously it can, by what you guys are discussing now. And these guys have concerns about their land getting involved. You know, I mean, and you're just affecting so many people's lives and so many people with this ditch thing. You know, and everybody's gonna have their own views, everybody's gonna have this, everybody's gonna think their land needs to get cleaned out. I mean, I'm worried about what's gonna happen to my land. Is it gonna dry up to nothing, or is it gonna flood out? Can Todd County tell me that?
Which land is that? I don't even know what your name is.
My name is Brian Rappaway. I have property in Section 10. I don't know the exact ladder right offhand, but
Well, the main ditch is not going to be, the ditch bottom's not going to be excavated.
okay.
We're-
But I'm just wondering, you know, if it starts backing up in other places, is the water gonna start to generally rise? And if it does, what am I gonna do to make that change? If I just have to sit back and accept what was melting, you know, and then all of a sudden abandon my land because it's water, it can't be got to anymore. You know, those are all my concerns, and these were my concerns a year ago, but it didn't, it kind of fell on deaf ears.
So you said Brian? Okay, so you've got 2 parcels or you have more?
I have 200 acres right here, but I don't know if it's a concern. The one that's in section 10.
Because I found the 2. They're both parcels are close, or all your properties close to each other?
It's all touching each other, yes it is. I should know the numbers, I pay taxes all the time, I should know my art.
Nope, I got it here.
That's the 80 right there.
Okay, so this is that lateral 5? No, it's north of Quicken Road.
Lateral 8.
So that's lateral 8. That's on your property. Okay, yep, that's lateral 8. So that's another one of those laterals that's actually not connected to the main ditch. It's Right, but, so that was one of the laterals that, because you can see there where the ditch system, it doesn't connect. They connected it to this little intermittent stream that then connects to the county ditch system. Like I said, I don't know why they did this with some of these laterals, but that's what they,
You could see it from the back of our property, there was a dam at one time, I think it was put in, when the ditch was made and laterals and all that stuff.
yep, so that's lateral 8.
Even though I wanted to take years off, let's see if I can take that and clean that out, it's just full check on the property. And that's, you know, everybody's most concerned about their own property as I am.
Because it's a repair, it should rely on the original design of the ditch system. If the cause of obstruction, if the cause of damage to your property is because something downstream is obstructed, and you see that, please call Nancy so that that can be addressed. But it, you know, it's not an improvement or a change. It's restoring the natural as constructed profile of the ditch.
But you know, like that years ago when the ditch was put in, it changed the land somewhat, we got more water, less water, whatever, I wasn't around then, I don't know. But
Same.
I just wanna try to make sure that it's gonna stay the same as it always was. You know, not flood or not, you know, where I have to consider abandoning it, you know, I wanna, right now, we can use our property with the water. And maybe it'll help us by draining, maybe it'll not help us by flooding, I don't know, but I'm worried about it, I really am, I'm worried about, you know, not having all of a sudden, where the Todd County's gonna run out of money to do this ditch, and they're gonna come get a letter in the mail saying, due to this lid thing, you know, we gotta do the ditches, and they give us enough money, and now we gotta get money.
Nancy, in the lid contract, isn't it somewhere on there that if they can only pump so much water to a certain level and then they cannot pump anymore?
Yep.
As
There's
a
gonna be a,
precaution not to flood
yep,
the
there's
land?
gonna be a, what do you call it? Oh, come on, Brandon. A what?
Flow meter.
Yes,
Yeah.
right south of Quicken Road, there's gonna be, or on that culvert on Quicken Road, there's gonna be one there. That one I know for sure.
They can only pump,
They can only pump to that level that was agreed to, and then they have to stop.
yeah. So they don't have free pumping all the time?
They just can't turn on the pumps and just pump
No.
until they're, and
And we made the levels,
the level was lower than what they wanted it,
yes, we did.
yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Now, if we just do the main ditch maintenance, I assume you would start at the outlet.
Yep.
And work south then
Yep,
with the monies that would be available.
if they just did them, yeah. And if we just did this, like I said, if we just do the spot cleaning of the main ditch, I don't see that it's gonna cost whatever, you know, it's not gonna cost that $200,000 if we just do the spot cleaning.
Is there any way these areas where beaver dams are usually, you know the spots?
Yep,
Are there any way to prevent future beaver dams in those desirable areas?
trap. The good thing is they're predictable.
I
Because
was thinking on a clean out. Is there some things that could be installed that would discourage?
we could, but then they'd just move somewhere else. That's the one good thing, that beaver are predictable, and if we don't,
It would be Morrison County.
yeah. But I mean, like, one south of Quicken Road, they're predictable, it's easy to get to, it's easy to trap.
Yeah.
When you make them angry, they move places that are not as easy to get to.
Know the spots.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah. Luckily, they've just been going back to the same spots, so it's been easy to figure out where they are and easy to get to them. Because there's some, you know, out there in Zeta's, they're out there a lot, and at least they got a road we can get in to his pasture, but if he didn't have that road, it's impossible to get back to some of those areas. So I will talk to that contractor up in Grand Rapids, see what they would charge, And if it's like an extravagant number, then I will talk to some other local contractors and see if any of them would want to take it on and what they would charge. There's no trees. I mean, that's getting to be the biggest expense of ditch cleaning is actually tree removal.
So when will you bring this back to us? Because no decisions can be made tonight, or
Right.
this is informational.
It's going to depend on when that contractor can come
Okay.
down and
Then
take
would
a
you
look
bring
at
it back to a board meeting or a work session?
I would probably do a work session.
Okay.
Because if we're, before we make a decision, we'd have to send a letter out to the,
Well, what you're asking Nancy to do is send another letter asking landowners to help identify where these spots are. And as long as that cost is below that $175,000 threshold in any year, which we anticipate it will be, that can be approved on an inspection report at any time that she puts it before the board.
Okay.
so the main thing I would need input on is really the laterals. I mean, the main ditch itself is pretty self-explanatory where the bad spots are on that. It would just be mainly those laterals if people actually want those that are basically non-existent cleaned.
I'm sure some of them will.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rightfully so. They're paying for this, you know, every year.
Yep.
And I see, as Chaminade does, if they do pump, when they start pumping, it will add to the fund balance,
Right.
correct? So it'll be, it's 30,000.
30,000 for the, yep, 30,000 a
After the
year.
first 3 years. What
Yeah.
happens after that, after the first 3 years?
Then there was gonna be, you didn't, because you weren't on it at
I
that
wasn't
time.
involved.
Then
no.
there was gonna be a review with the county engineer, myself, and the county coordinator.
Yeah.
And Lake Shamana was gonna review to
And-
see
and,
if
you
there
know-
were any issues
All right, and if
that,
all these cleanings,
happen.
we don't, say the price keeps going up of excavating, which it will, you know, maybe that's where we have to rediscuss on how much they pay per year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we can get some more of these projects done as the funding allows.
yeah. So, and like I said, with the drought that we're in right now, I don't know what next year's gonna look like or the year after. Who knows? They might not even start the pumps.
Can we look into that as well? If they complete the whole system and never turn the pump on, do we still get paid?
No, well, no, because the pump has to run for 24 hours straight before, they have to pay the first $30,000 10 days before they turn the pumps on for a full 24 hours. So if they don't turn if they never need to use it because it never gets above the ordinary high water level, then they don't have to pay an outlet fee.
But then they don't pump no water.
If they don't
either.
pump any water, they don't have to pay the
Pumping
outlet
water,
fee.
then yeah,
No.
I gotcha. All right. So maybe that
So-
200,000, hopefully if things stay normal, the 200,000 is a nice little gift we can use to
Right,
help landowners out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because as of right now, from what I've heard from several people, it's close to ordinary high water. So,
Yes,
It sounds like you put in a good safeguard to keep water level from getting too high on our properties by having that level sensor in there.
so we were trying to do, yeah.
And I'm glad you did, that some people are thinking about that. But just hypothetically, in the future, if engineering didn't go right and my land gets flooded and some of my trees start dying, like behind my house, is there a legal recourse for me for damages, like against Morrison County or the Lake Shamrock Association? Because it would ultimately have been cost by then.
Sir, can I get you to state your name first for the record? Would you say your name?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Address.
Gene Barr.
Okay.
So everyone's looking at me because I'm the attorney in the room, but you should talk to an attorney about your rights if something like that were to happen. I'm not familiar with the lid, I wasn't involved in it, but also if the cause of any damages is an obstruction or something to deal with this ditch system, then you should immediately notify Nancy so that the obstruction can be removed and the damages can be abated.
yeah. But like I said, the engineering that they did and the level that they set for the trigger to shut off the pumps, we actually negotiated that's lower than what they wanted,
Yeah.
so.
Anything else to be brought in front of the board at this time? If not, I'd ask for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Noska, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned then. Yep.